Jake Morrison walked through the massive doors of the council. Building on Nexus Prime, the ceiling stretched so high above him that he could barely see where it ended. Alien beings from across the galaxy filled the viewing galleries, their strange eyes all focused on the small group of humans entering the chamber. Jake kept his face calm even though his heart was beating fast. This was the most important day in human history. Behind him walked Lisa Carter, Earth's best diplomat. She had spent 20 years learning alien languages and customs. Her hands shook slightly as she carried the datapad containing humanity's defense files. Next to her, Ryan Brooks stood tall in his military uniform. The captain had fought in 3 interstellar conflicts and never backed down from a fight. Today, though, they were not here to fight. They were here to be judged. The Council of 7 sat on raised platforms that formed a circle around the center of the room. Each member represented one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The Zephyrians looked like living crystal formations that sang when they spoke. The Altarians were tall beings made of what looked like flowing water, but solid to the touch. The Korthik resembled giant trees with thousands of small eyes covering their bark-like skin. Jake had read about all of them during the long journey to Nexus Prime. These beings had ruled space for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. Their technology was so advanced that they could create planets and move stars. To them, humanity was just a young species that had barely learned to leave their homeworld. The High Arbiter of the Zephyrians began to speak. His voice filled the entire chamber like music played on crystal bells. Species designation human. You stand before this council to answer for your actions across the galaxy. For 300 years, we have watched your kind spread among the stars. We have seen your wars, your violence, your endless conflicts. Jake felt his jaw tighten. Yes, humans fought wars. But they also built hospitals, wrote poetry, and saved dying species from extinction. Why did the council only see the violence? You have been provisional members of our galactic community, the Arbiter continued. We hoped that contact with advanced civilizations would help your species evolve beyond its primitive nature. We were wrong. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. Images of human conflicts played out in 3 dimensions above Jake's head. The Battle of Kepler Station, where human forces had fought against pirates threatening civilian ships. The incident at Vega Colony, where human soldiers had stopped a slaver ring that was kidnapping alien children. The defense of New Terra, when unknown attackers had tried to destroy the human settlement, but the council showed only the explosions and the fighting. They did not show the lives saved or the innocents protected. They made every human action look like the work of savage beasts. Look at this evidence, said the Altarian representative, her liquid form shifting with emotion. Wherever humans go, conflict follows. You cannot exist without violence. You are a danger to the peaceful order we have maintained for millennia. Lisa stepped forward. Honored council members, if I may speak in humanity's defense. The conflicts you show were all in protection of innocent lives. We fought only when attacked or when others needed our help. The Korthik representative's thousands of eyes blinked in sequence. Your intentions matter little, young human. The result is always the same. Death and destruction follow your species like a shadow. We have tried to guide you toward peace, but you resist all our efforts. Jake wanted to argue. He wanted to tell them about human art and music and literature. He wanted to explain that humans fought only to protect what they loved. But he could see in their alien faces that their minds were already made up. This trial was just for show. The evidence is clear, the High Arbiter announced. Humanity has failed to evolve beyond its violent nature. You remain a threat to galactic peace and stability. Therefore, this council has reached a unanimous decision. The chamber fell silent. Even the thousands of alien observers in the galleries stopped their whispered conversations. Jake felt Lisa's hand touch his arm. Her fingers were ice-cold. Effective. Immediately, the species known as humanity is hereby expelled from the galactic community. You are banned from all council space and forbidden from traveling beyond the boundaries of your home solar system. All trade agreements are canceled. All technology sharing programs are terminated. All diplomatic relations are severed. The words hit Jake like physical blows, expelled, banned, forbidden in one moment. Humanity had been cut off from the entire galaxy. You will have one standard galactic year to withdraw all human presence from council space, the Arbiter continued. After that time, any human found beyond the Sol system will be considered an enemy of galactic peace and dealt with accordingly. Jake found his voice at last. You're making a mistake. Humanity has much to offer the galaxy. We have solved problems that other species thought impossible. We have shown courage when others fled. We have stood up for the weak when the powerful would ignore them. Your courage is violence, the Altarian replied. Your problem-solving is destruction. Your protection of the weak is simply an excuse for your aggressive nature. The High Arbiter raised one crystal arm and the session was over. The judgment is final. Security will escort you to your ship. As the three humans were led from the chamber, Jake heard something that made his blood run cold. The alien observers were applauding. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy were clapping and cheering and celebrating humanity's exile. They were happy to see humans cast aside. In the galleries, he saw representatives from species that humans had saved from disaster, beings whose worlds humans had helped rebuild after natural catastrophes, civilizations that had benefited from human trade and technology. All of them applauding. The Nexari, whose children humans had rescued from slavers just 5 years ago, were clapping. The loudest, the Stellan Republic, which had begged for human military aid against raiders, was cheering with obvious relief. Even the Centauri Federation, humanity's oldest alien ally, was joining in the celebration. As the security guards led them through the corridors toward their ship, Lisa spoke quietly. They wanted this, all of them. They never intended to let us stay. Ryan's face was grim. 300 years of trying to prove ourselves. 300 years of following their rules and hoping for acceptance, all wasted. Jake said nothing until they reached their ship. As the engines powered up for the long journey home, he stood at the observation deck and watched Nexus Prime shrink in the distance. The applause was still ringing in his ears. Humanity was going home. Not as honored members of a galactic community, but as exiles cast out by beings who feared what they did not understand. The Council had made their choice and the galaxy had celebrated, but Jake Morrison had a feeling that the real price of this decision had not yet been paid, and when it came due, the applause would turn to something very different. 5 years had passed since the ships came home. Amy Rodriguez remembered watching the last transport vessel dock at Luna Station, carrying the final group of human colonists from the Outer Rim territories. The passengers looked tired and angry. Many had lived their entire lives on worlds beyond the Sol system. Now they were refugees in their own species' birthplace. Amy worked in the underground laboratories beneath Luna City. The Council had cut off all technology trade with humanity, so her job was to figure out how everything worked without alien help. She spent 14 hours a day taking apart galactic standard equipment and trying to rebuild it using only human knowledge and materials. Her assistant Ben Tyler handed her another broken jump drive unit. This is the 15th one this month, he said. The power coupling always burns out when we try to reverse engineer it. Amy wiped sweat from her forehead. The laboratory was hot because they had to use older human cooling systems instead of the efficient alien technology they used to buy. The Council designed these things to be impossible to copy, she said. They never wanted us to be independent. Above their heads, the rest of Luna City buzzed with activity. Construction crews worked around the clock to build new housing for the millions of humans who had been forced to leave their homes beyond the solar system. The population of Earth's moon had tripled in just 2 years. Every available space was filled with temporary shelters and emergency living quarters. On Mars, Admiral Susan Parker coordinated the massive fleet operations that brought humans home. Her office overlooked the sprawling shipyards where human vessels were being converted for new purposes. Ships that once carried trade goods to alien markets now served as mobile homes for displaced families. Military vessels designed for interstellar patrol were being turned into cargo haulers and passenger transports. Susan stared at the reports on her desk. 12 million humans relocated in 5 years, she told her aide, Captain Tony Foster. And we're still not done. There are isolated research stations and mining operations scattered across dozens of systems. The Council won't let us use their navigation networks anymore, so we have to find these people using our own star charts. Tony nodded grimly. Some of the mining crews have been out there for decades. They might not even know about the expulsion order yet. We're sending search ships to every system where humans might be working. The isolation was harder than anyone had expected. Humans had grown dependent on alien technology over 3 centuries of galactic contact. Suddenly they could not buy the advanced medical equipment that kept people healthy for 200 years. They could not purchase the matter converters that turned raw materials into food and manufactured goods. They could not access the quantum communication networks that allowed instant messages across the galaxy. Earth's government had to ration everything. Power, food, medical supplies, even basic tools became precious resources. People who had lived comfortable lives on advanced worlds now found themselves crowded into refugee camps with limited amenities. But something unexpected began to happen. In those underground laboratories and makeshift workshops, Dr. Carlos Martinez worked at a research station on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. His team was trying to solve the power shortage that affected every human settlement. Without alien energy sources, humanity had to rely on fusion reactors and solar collectors that were barely adequate for their needs. Carlos had been experimenting with quantum field manipulation when he discovered something remarkable. Look at these readings, he told his colleague Dr. Patricia Wells. When we destabilize the quantum vacuum in a controlled way, we can extract energy directly from empty space itself. Patricia studied the data with growing excitement. Carlos, this energy output is incredible. It's 10 times more efficient than fusion. How is this possible? I think it has to do with the quantum uncertainty principle, Carlos explained. The Council's technology always tried to eliminate chaos and randomness from their energy systems. But chaos might actually be the key to unlocking this much power. The discovery spread quickly through the human scientific community. Research teams on every world in the Sol system began experimenting with Carlos's quantum vacuum energy process. Within months, they had built the first prototype generators. Within a year, the power shortage was over. Other breakthroughs followed. Rapidly, Dr. Linda Hayes developed new medical techniques that worked better than some alien treatments. Engineer Mike Thompson created manufacturing systems that could build complex devices using only materials found in the asteroid belt. Physicist Dr. Nancy Clark discovered new principles of space-time manipulation that made faster than light travel possible without alien jump drives. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her workbench one day to find that she had successfully reverse-engineered and improved a galactic standard computer system. "Ben, come look at this," she called. "Our version processes data faster than the original alien design." "How is that possible?" Ben asked. Amy smiled for the first time in months. "We stopped trying to copy their approach and started doing things the human way instead. They always design for perfect efficiency and 0 errors. We design for flexibility and adaptation. It turns out our way works better." The changes were happening everywhere. Human colonies that had struggled with alien bureaucracy and regulations suddenly found themselves free to innovate. Scientists could pursue dangerous research that the Council had forbidden. Engineers could build things in ways that alien safety standards would never allow. Artists could create works that expressed human emotions too intense for alien sensibilities. General Pete Collins commanded Earth's defense forces during this time of isolation. He watched the progress reports with amazement. 5 years ago, we were dependent on alien technology for everything, he told President Karen Walsh during their weekly briefing. Now we're developing systems that are better than what we used to buy from them. President Walsh reviewed the latest production figures. Food output is up 40%. Energy production has increased by 300%. Our new ships are faster and more maneuverable than the old alien designs. It's like we were being held back all this time. Maybe we were, Pete replied. The Council always insisted we follow their technical standards and safety protocols. They said it was for our own good, but maybe it was really to keep us from developing anything that might challenge their superiority. As the 5th year of isolation drew to a close, humanity had not just survived their expulsion from galactic society. They had flourished. The refugee camps were being replaced by permanent cities. The jury-rigged equipment was being upgraded with advanced human technology. The crowded transport ships were being supplemented by new vessels built in human shipyards. Amy Rodriguez stood in her laboratory, no longer hot and cramped but expanded into a modern research facility. Around her, human scientists worked on projects that would have been impossible under Council oversight. They were free to think, to experiment, to fail, and to succeed in ways their former alien partners had never allowed. But beyond the boundaries of the Sol system, something else was happening, something that would soon make humanity's technological renaissance seem like a small preparation for a much larger challenge. The galaxy that had celebrated their expulsion was about to learn what it really meant to be alone. The first reports came on a Tuesday morning during Earth's 7th year of isolation. Communications Officer Rachel Stone was monitoring the long-range sensors when she noticed something strange in the intercepted alien transmissions. The usual chatter from vegan Confederacy worlds had simply stopped. Rachel called her supervisor immediately. Commander Williams, I'm not picking up any signals from the vegan sectors. The entire region has gone quiet. Commander David Williams frowned as he studied the sensor readings. Equipment malfunction? No, sir, I've checked everything twice. The silence started exactly 14 hours ago. Before that, normal traffic. After that, nothing. David reported the anomaly to General Pete Collins at Earth Defense Command. Pete had been expecting something like this for months. The intelligence reports from human agents still hidden in Council space had been growing more disturbing each week. It's not just the vegans, Pete told President Karen Walsh during their emergency meeting. We've lost contact with 17 different star systems over the past month. All of them just stopped transmitting without any distress calls or warning signs. Karen studied the star charts on the main screen. Could it be some kind of natural disaster, solar flares, or cosmic radiation? That's what we thought at first, Pete replied. But the pattern is too organized. Whatever is happening moves from system to system in a deliberate way. This isn't natural. Dr. Lisa Carter had been monitoring alien communications from her position at the Earth Intelligence Center. She had spent the last 7 years learning everything she could about galactic politics and technology. Her translation computers worked day and night to decode messages from dozens of alien languages. I'm seeing panic in the transmissions we can still intercept, Lisa told the assembled human leadership. The Altarians are abandoning their outer colonies. The Korthek are pulling their bioships back to their core worlds. Even the Zephyrians are breaking their crystal formations and fleeing somewhere. Fleeing from what? Asked Admiral Susan Parker. That's what I can't figure out, Lisa said. The aliens aren't talking about what they're running from. They just keep saying things like, the barriers are failing and the old protections no longer hold. The mystery deepened when Commander Alex Rivera made contact. Alex had been operating undercover in Council space for 3 years, maintaining unofficial trade relationships with alien merchants who were willing to ignore the human embargo. His coded transmissions were humanity's best source of information about what was happening in the galaxy. His latest message was urgent. The Nexari Republic collapsed overnight. I was trading with a Nexari merchant named Vex just last week. Today I received a message from him that was completely terrified. He said something was eating his homeworld from the inside out. Something that existed in the spaces between dimensions. General Pete felt a chill run down his spine. Between dimensions? Alex's transmission continued. Vex described creatures that could phase in and out of normal space. They would appear inside ships and buildings without using doors or airlocks. But here's the strangest part. They seemed to feed on organized matter itself. Wherever they touched, solid objects would dissolve into quantum particles. Dr. Carlos Martinez was called in to analyze these reports. His team at the Titan Research Station had become experts on quantum physics during their work with vacuum energy. If these entities can manipulate matter at the quantum level, he explained, they would be incredibly dangerous. They could literally unmake anything they encountered. But the most shocking revelation came from an unexpected source. The High Arbiter of the Zephyrians, the same being who had condemned humanity 7 years earlier, sent a desperate transmission directly to Earth. The message was intercepted by Rachel Stone during her night shift. She immediately called her superiors when she realized what she was hearing. The High Arbiter is trying to contact Earth directly. He's broadcasting on all frequencies. The transmission was weak and distorted, as if it was being sent through some kind of interference. But the words were clear enough to understand. Humans of Earth, this is High Arbiter Crystalline Song of Ages. Our homeworld is under attack by entities we call the Devourers. They consume all organized matter and energy. We need your help. President Karen felt a mixture of anger and disbelief. They cast us out 7 years ago. They celebrated when we were exiled. Now they want our help. The High Arbiter's transmission continued. We know you have no reason to assist us. We know we wronged your species. But you must understand, the Devourers were always the real threat. We thought we could handle them with technology alone. We were wrong. Dr. Martinez worked around the clock to analyze the technical data included in the Zephyrian message. What he discovered changed everything humanity thought they knew about galactic history. The aliens have been fighting these Devourers for thousands of years, he explained to the emergency council session. They built a network of dimensional barriers to keep them out of normal space. But maintaining these barriers required a specific type of energy. What kind of energy? Karen asked. Carlos hesitated before answering. Chaos energy. Quantum uncertainty patterns. The kind of random, unpredictable energy signatures that come from conflict and struggle. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. General Pete was the first to speak. Are you saying that our wars were actually powering their defenses? It's worse than that, Carlos replied. According to this data, peaceful civilizations don't generate enough chaos energy to maintain the barriers. The Devourers can only be kept out by the quantum patterns that come from violence and conflict. Dr. Lisa Carter felt sick as she read through the translated documents. They knew? The Council knew that human conflicts were necessary to protect the galaxy. That's why they kept us around for 300 years despite claiming to disapprove of our violence. More transmissions arrived from across the galaxy as alien civilizations fell one by one. The Stellan Republic sent its final message as strange entities consumed their capital world. The barriers are completely down now. Without the chaos energy from human conflicts, we cannot maintain the dimensional shields. The Devourers are coming through everywhere. President Karen stood at the window of her office, looking out at Earth's blue skies. For 7 years, humanity had been isolated and cut off from the galaxy that had rejected them. They had been told they were too violent, too chaotic, too primitive for civilized space. Now she understood the truth. Humanity had not been the problem, they had been the solution. Their conflicts and struggles had been the energy source that kept cosmic horrors from destroying everything. The Council had used human suffering as fuel for their protection while pretending to disapprove of it. And when they thought they could manage without humans, they had cast them aside with applause. The galaxy had celebrated being free of the violent barbarians who reminded them of their own dark necessities, but the barriers were failing now. The ancient protections were crumbling, and somewhere in the spaces between dimensions, things that had been hungry for millennia were finally free to feed. The price of the Council's applause was about to be paid in full. The final transmission from the High Arbiter came 3 days later. Captain Lisa Morgan was commanding the stealth ship Eagle's flight on a reconnaissance mission near the former Zephyrian border when her communications officer picked up the signal. The transmission was weak and filled with static, but every word was clear enough to shatter everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Lisa watched through the ship's main viewer as the crystalline spires of the Zephyrian homeworld began to dissolve. Strange rifts in space-time opened above the planet's surface, and through them came things that hurt to look at directly. The Devourers moved like shadows made of hungry darkness, touching buildings and watching them crumble into quantum dust. The High Arbiter's voice crackled through the interference. This is my final transmission. To any who can hear this message, know the truth of what we have done. We are not the victims here. We are the architects of our own destruction. Lisa ordered her crew to record everything. Whatever the High Arbiter was about to reveal, humanity needed to hear it. For 6,000 years, we have known about the Devourers, the Arbiter continued. They exist in the spaces between dimensions, feeding on organized matter and energy. Only one thing could keep them away from our reality: barriers powered by chaos energy, the quantum uncertainty that comes from conflict and struggle. On the planet below, another section of the capital city vanished as a devourer passed through it. The being moved like liquid shadow, but wherever it touched, reality itself seemed to unravel. Our ancient civilizations learned to create peace through the elimination of chaos, the High Arbiter said. We removed conflict from our societies. We eliminated the random, unpredictable elements that younger species thrived on. We became perfect, ordered, peaceful. And in doing so, we made ourselves useless for maintaining the barriers that protected us. Lisa felt a cold understanding growing in her chest. She thought about all the times the Council had criticized humanity for their violent nature, their inability to achieve true peace. When we discovered humanity 300 years ago, we found a species that generated more chaos energy than we had seen in millennia. Your wars, your conflicts, your refusal to accept stagnation, it was exactly what we needed. A single human battle produced more barrier energy than our entire civilization could generate in a decade. The transmission paused as explosions rocked the planet. The High Arbiter's crystal form was beginning to crack under the dimensional stress. We told ourselves that we were civilizing you. We told ourselves that we were teaching you to be better. But the truth was that we needed you to stay exactly as you were. We needed your chaos, your violence, your beautiful, terrible unpredictability. Captain Morgan's communications officer looked up from his station. Captain, I'm detecting similar transmissions from other failing worlds. The Korthic Empire is broadcasting something similar. Put it through. Lisa ordered. The Korthic message was being transmitted by one of their bioships as it fled from their dying homeworld. We cultivated human conflicts for 3 centuries, the alien voice said through the translator. When your species fought over resources, we made sure both sides had adequate weapons. When you faced external threats, we provided just enough help to ensure the conflicts lasted as long as possible. Lisa's hands clenched into fists. They were managing our wars. The Korthic transmission continued. Your Battle of Kepler Station? Where 5,000 humans died fighting pirates, we allowed those pirates to acquire military-grade weapons, specifically to extend the conflict. Your defense of New Terra, where 2,000 human soldiers gave their lives to save colonists, we could have stopped the attackers before they reached the system, but we needed the chaos energy that human desperation would produce. More messages flooded in from across the galaxy as civilization after civilization faced extinction. The Altarians confessed that they had secretly funded both sides of human civil wars. The Nexari admitted to manipulating trade disputes to ensure they escalated into armed conflicts. Even the peaceful Stellan Republic revealed that they had been providing information to human enemies to make battles more challenging and prolonged. Dr. Lisa Carter received these transmissions at Earth Intelligence Command and felt sick as she translated them. Every human death in the past 3 centuries had been carefully managed by aliens who needed their suffering to survive. They turned our pain into their protection, she told President Karen Walsh. Every soldier who died, every civilian killed in conflicts, they were all just fuel for alien survival. But the revelations were not finished. The most damning confession. came from the Council archives themselves. As the Nexus Prime station was overrun by devourers, its automated systems broadcast the complete historical records of the Council's dealings with humanity. General Pete Collins listened to these records with growing rage. The files contained detailed plans for managing human behavior. Project Eternal Conflict was a 300-year program designed to keep humanity in a constant state of low-level warfare. The Council had identified human emotions like anger, fear, and desperation as the most efficient generators of chaos energy. They had studied human psychology and learned exactly how to trigger conflicts. They knew which resources to make scarce, which territories to contest, which cultural differences to emphasize. They had turned human nature into a weapon against cosmic horrors while pretending to be disgusted by human violence. The files even contained evaluations of individual human leaders. Jake Morrison was described as an excellent catalyst for defensive chaos patterns. Lisa Carter was noted for her ability to generate diplomatic uncertainty that produces useful quantum fluctuations. Ryan Brooks was praised for his tactical unpredictability that maximizes energy output during conflicts. President Karen read through page after page of alien analysis of human behavior. They had studied humanity like scientists studying laboratory animals. They knew exactly which buttons to push to make humans fight, and they had been pushing those buttons for centuries. The Titan Rebellion of 2387, Karen said, reading from one file. They made sure both sides had access to weapons that would ensure maximum casualties. The Colony Wars of 2401, they sabotaged peace negotiations to extend the fighting. The asteroid mining conflict of 2419, they artificially created the resource shortage that started the whole war. Dr. Carlos Martinez looked up from his analysis of the technical data. It gets worse. According to these files, they could have shared technology that would have prevented most of our conflicts. They had solutions to resource scarcity, territorial disputes, even genetic diseases that caused some of our wars. They deliberately withheld this technology to keep us fighting. The scope of the betrayal was overwhelming. For 300 years, humanity had believed they were proving themselves worthy of galactic civilization. They had thought their inclusion in the Council was a reward for their efforts to become more peaceful and advanced. In reality, the Council had been using them as unwitting guards against cosmic horror. Every human who died in battle was a sacrifice to keep the barriers strong. Every conflict was a carefully managed energy source. Every war was a tool to protect aliens who looked down on the warriors, keeping them alive. And when the Council thought they could maintain the barriers through technology alone, they had cast humanity aside with celebration and applause. They had expelled the very species whose suffering had been keeping them safe. Now the barriers were failing. The technology could not replace the chaos energy that human conflicts had provided. And the things that lived in the spaces between dimensions were finally free to consume the galaxy that had protected itself with human blood. The price of the Council's applause was higher than anyone had imagined, and it was about to be paid in the destruction of every world that had cheered for humanity's exile. Admiral Tony Foster stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's first fully independent starship, watching the long-range sensors display the systematic destruction of galactic civilization. The ship hummed with power from the quantum vacuum. Generators that Dr. Carlos Martinez had perfected during Earth's isolation. These generators produced more chaos energy in an hour than all of humanity's historical conflicts had generated in a year around Earth's solar system, a network of quantum field generators created safe corridors through the dimensional rifts where the devourers lurked. The same technology that had started as a solution to humanity's power shortage had accidentally become the galaxy's salvation. The chaotic quantum patterns generated by human engineering were exactly what was needed to rebuild the barriers between dimensions. Lieutenant Amy Brooks looked up from her communications station. Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from every major galactic power. The Altarian High Command is requesting immediate military assistance. The Korthic Empire is offering to surrender their entire biofleet in exchange for protection. Even. The Stellar Federation is begging for help. Tony studied the tactical display. Red markers showed the advancing Devourer fronts, consuming star system after star system. The ancient civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were falling like dominoes. Only the small blue sphere of Earth's solar system remained untouched, protected by barriers powered by human innovation rather than human suffering. "How many distress calls in total?" Tony asked. 3,417 as of this morning, sir," Amy replied. "Every surviving government, colony, and space station in Council territory." The irony was so thick it could be cut with a knife. 7 years ago, these same civilizations had applauded humanity's expulsion from their community. They had celebrated being free of the violent barbarians who reminded them of their own dark necessities. Now they begged for salvation from the very people they had cast aside. In her office on Earth, President Karen Walsh prepared her response to the galaxy's pleas for help. The message would be broadcast to every surviving alien world, carried by quantum transmitters that could penetrate the dimensional interference caused by the Devourer attacks. "People of the galaxy," Karen began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. 7 years ago, your council judged humanity unworthy of your civilization. You condemned us as violent, chaotic, and primitive. You expelled us from your community with unanimous approval and thunderous applause. Karen paused, thinking of all the human lives that had been lost over 3 centuries of carefully managed conflicts. "We now know the truth of what you did to us. For 300 years, you used our conflicts as fuel for your survival. You manipulated our wars, extended our suffering, and turned our pain into your protection. Every human soldier who died in battle was a sacrifice to keep your barriers strong. Every conflict was a tool to guard against the horrors you feared to face." The transmission was being received across the galaxy by the few remaining alien communication networks. In hidden bunkers and fleeing ships, alien leaders listened to the words of the species they had discarded. "When you thought you could maintain your defenses through technology alone, you cast us aside with celebration," Karen continued. "You cheered for our exile because you believed you no longer needed the violent barbarians who had been keeping you safe. You thought you could eliminate chaos from your perfect ordered universe." On Mars, Admiral Susan Parker coordinated the massive fleet operations that would determine the galaxy's fate. Human ships equipped with quantum chaos generators were already moving beyond the Sol system's borders for the first time in 7 years. These vessels created expanding bubbles of dimensional stability wherever they went, pushing back the Devourer incursions and rescuing survivors from dying worlds. "Ma'am," reported Captain Mike Thompson from the command center, "the first rescue fleet has reached the vegan sectors. They're reporting thousands of alien survivors huddled in emergency shelters. The Devourers had consumed everything else, but our chaos field generators are forcing them back into dimensional space." Susan nodded grimly. "Continue the rescue operations. But make sure every alien we save understands exactly who is saving them and why they needed saving in the first place." President Karen's transmission continued across the galaxy. "You dismantled your own protection system when you expelled us. You left yourselves defenseless against the very horrors you had spent millennia keeping at bay. The barriers failed because you eliminated the chaos energy they required. Your pursuit of perfect peace made you perfectly vulnerable." Dr. Carlos Martinez worked around the clock at his research station, coordinating the deployment of quantum generators across human space. His accidental discovery during Earth's isolation had become the foundation for a new type of dimensional barrier, one that did not require human suffering to maintain. "The generators are working beyond our best projections," he reported to the Earth Council. "We can create stable corridors through Devourer-infested space and establish permanent safe zones around any star system. But the energy requirements are enormous. We'll need to build thousands more generators to protect the entire galaxy." The scope of the rescue operation was unprecedented. Human ships pushed deeper into alien territory, their chaos field generators, carving paths through dimensional rifts filled with hungry shadows. Ship after ship returned to human space carrying alien refugees who had never expected to owe their lives to the species they had rejected. Commander Jake Morrison, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, led one of the primary rescue fleets into the heart of former Council space. His flagship, the Redemption, carried enough quantum generators to create a stable corridor from Earth to the galactic core. Along the way, they found the remnants of civilizations that had stood for thousands of years, reduced to scattered survivors, hiding in the ruins of their perfect worlds. This is Admiral Morrison of the Human Rescue Fleet. He broadcast to a group of Zephyrian survivors huddled in the wreckage of their crystal cities. "We're here to evacuate you to safety. Please prepare for immediate transport to human-controlled space." The response came back in the musical tones of the Zephyrian language, translated by the ship's computers. "Human Admiral, we do not understand. Why do you help us after what we did to your species?" Jake's response was broadcast for all to hear. "Because someone has to be strong enough to face the darkness. And apparently that someone is us." The rescue operations continued for months. Human engineers worked to establish permanent quantum generator networks around every surviving alien world. Human scientists shared their chaos energy technology freely with species that had hoarded their own knowledge for centuries. Human soldiers fought the Devourers in the spaces between dimensions. Using their natural unpredictability as a weapon against cosmic horror, slowly, the galaxy began to stabilize. The Devourer fronts were pushed back. The dimensional rifts were sealed. New barriers were established, powered not by human suffering but by human innovation and determination. President Karen's final words to the galaxy became the foundation for a new interstellar order. "We are not doing this for forgiveness. We are not doing this for gratitude. We are doing this because civilization is not about eliminating conflict and struggle. Civilization is about channeling them toward purposes greater than ourselves." The galaxy survived, but it would never be the same. The ancient civilizations that had ruled the stars learned a hard truth about the nature of peace and the price of security. They discovered that eliminating chaos from their societies had not made them more advanced. It had made them helpless against the chaos that existed beyond their control. At the center of the new galactic order stood humanity, longer hidden behind the illusion of alien superiority but acknowledged as the guardians they had always been. The Council had cast them aside to thunderous applause, believing they could do without the violent barbarians who generated the energy they needed to survive. But when the applause faded and the real price came due, only the barbarians remained, standing, ready to pay it. The galaxy learned that sometimes the monsters are not outside the walls, sometimes they are what the walls were built to keep out. And sometimes the people you think are too violent for civilization are the only ones strong enough to protect it.